Welcome everyone to Cietar España's event today with Ridha, who is connecting from Heidelberg, Germany. And he's going to be giving us a workshop today on working successfully with Arabs. So without further ado, Ridha.
All right, thanks, Brian. Thanks for attending my session this evening. So this is me. I am a senior lecturer at the German University of Applied Science called Worms. I also studied at the University of East Anglia in England back in the days. My background is applied linguistics, and I'm also a certified intercultural trainer. I grew up in a French and Tunisian Arabic environment. My wife is German, and I teach business communication, intercultural management. That makes me more credible. Uh, when I talk about a globalized world and VUCA world and all that stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to start with a couple of statements. When is Ramadan this year? Arabs are all the same, aren't they? What is an Eid? What is Hajj? Excuse me, Mr. Mahmoud, but what is your Christian name? Turks and Iranis are Arabs, aren't they? All Arabs are Muslim, and all Muslim are Arabs, right? All Arabs live in the desert and ride camels. If you ask these or similar questions, don't go to the Arab world yet. So this is what I'm going to cover in this session. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Arab world. I'm going to touch a little bit on religion because it has a it has a huge impact on the lives of Muslims and Arabs, and even in business. I'm going to talk a little bit about communication, a little bit about the Arab mindset and values. We have a couple of exercises, and then I'll talk a little bit about marketing and give some example of some marketing blunders slash faux pas and successful marketing campaigns. So what do people usually associate with the Arab world? What do you think?
Islam.
Okay, yep, good. Anything else?
Business.
Business, okay. Business, Islam, okay. Let's try to combine both, business and religion, okay. Anything else?
I think of the architecture of southern Spain, of the Alhambra and the Mezquita in Cordova,
Right, yeah, very good.
and
Alhambra.
all the scientific uh,
Okay,
developments of that period.
okay, yeah, very good. All right. Yeah, well, these are the things people usually associate with the Arab world. This picture is taken from Dubai. Those of you who've been there, this is the 7-star Burj Al Arab. We connect, oil and sheikhs and rich people, desert, belly dance, camels. Unfortunately, terrorism. This picture was taken in Tunisia, where the Arab Spring started, or the Arab Winter, if you want. This one is Dubai as well, the Palm Island. This picture is taken in Qatar, so people go to those countries and they think they are in kind of, going to some Spanish islands, forgetting that it's still a Muslim country, right? So the Arab world is a very diverse place. I even dare to say it does not exist as such. There's no place called Arab. Of course, there's Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but there's no place called Arabia or whatever, right? We are talking about 22 countries, completely different countries. So usually the Arab world stretches from Morocco across Northern Africa to the Persian Gulf. And this area is known as MENA, Middle East and North Africa. Middle East is also a funny name because back in the days, the British were talking about the Near East and Far East, say, okay, what do you call this region? Let's go with the Middle East. Anyway, people talk about those, that region. And these Arab countries are religiously, ethnically diverse. What they have in common is Islam as a religion. So actually, we talk about three regions. North Africa, the so-called Maghreb, which means in Arabic sunset, and the Levant or Mashraq, that's sunrise. So on the one hand, you have countries like Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, and so on. And then you have Lebanon, Syria. And then you have the Middle East, the Gulf cooperating countries, the so-called GCC, the rich countries. I mean, the whole Gulf areas is the fifth largest economy in the world, plus Egypt, Sudan, and Yemen. Yemen is a very poor country. We're talking about income per capita of $500 compared to Qatar with $130,000, right? So imagine a German guy going there who wants to do business and telling people time is money. They laugh at you because they already have a lot of money. They might say, can I offer you something to drink, right? So this is basically, and then the GCC include these rich countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. All of them, they feel Arabs, of course, but then there are some region. A guy from Algeria would feel more related to a guy from Morocco, from Tunisia, because they used to be French colony. So there's the region there. So there's the big picture. We are all Arabs. There's a region. And even within the region, the guys say, I'm from Morocco. I'm from Tunisia, right? So big picture, all Arabs, region, country. Approximately 465 million Arabs worldwide. That's nearly the population of the European Union, which is 500, I think. And the Arab world includes Muslim, Christians, and Jews. My dad is from Tunisia, so there's an island very popular for tourism called Djerba, and there's the second oldest synagogue in the world. So you have Tunisian Jews or Jewish Tunisian, and they have Tunisian passport. They've been living peacefully there with Berber and Arabs all together. Anybody who's been to Egypt can realize that 10% of the population are Christian Copts. And you could tell by the name if you go to any hotels. I mean, the people who serve you, mostly Egypt's have three names, Muhammad, Ahmed, Mahmoud in that order. So 75% of the population are called like that. And the other person, you could see the names. I mean, Michael, Nancy, Mary. I mean, you could tell, right? They have a shared history. Language is very, I mean, anyone who speaks Arabic is usually considered as an Arab, because if you say a Muslim, you can be a Muslim, but not necessarily an Arab, right? So it's very difficult to define an Arab. It's like defining an American. What is an American, right? So this is a map of the Arab world, 22 countries, as I said. This is North Africa, right? Maghreb state. This is the Levant, and these are the rich GCC countries. So how many countries are in the Arab world? Do you have an idea, approximately?
22.
22, right? Okay, 20 something, right? Okay, these are the Arab countries with their flags, right? So which country have the largest Muslim population? Do you have an idea?
Yes, Egypt.
Egypt, okay. Any other ideas?
It's in Indonesia.
Indonesia, very good. Yes, in the world, Indonesia.
That was a tricky question, okay.
Right.
Yeah, but you are right with Egypt. Egypt, they always say we are 90 million. I think they are more than 100 million. There are people who are not registered, who live in the Sinai and a lot of Bedouins. Not even Saudi Arabia in the top 10, where Muslim pilgrim every year. Well, I think they have nearly 30 million, right? So you see countries like Indonesia, Pakistan, India, even in, I think even in China, there are approximately 50 million Muslim. So what I want to say with that is not all Arabs are Muslim, not all Muslim are Arabs. Very, very important. Yeah, people mix them up and say, if you are Arab, you're automatically Muslim. There are Muslim who are not Arabs, like Turks, Iranians, and so on. Okay, the language is quite interesting as well. There's a phenomenon in linguistics called diglossia. There's a high variety of language and a low variety of language. So when you learn Arabic, you learn classical Arabic, and that sounds like Shakespearean English, or I mean, it's a written language, but not spoken. So you can buy a newspaper in Beirut or Marrakesh or Dubai. You can read it, provided you've been to school. You can read it. So this is the language, the written language. And there are some dialects, of course, spoken but not written. What happened in the course of time? There's a modern standard Arabic, the so-called MSAA, that emerged, and that's the language of the media. If you're familiar with Al Jazeera news and so on and so on. So all Arabs understand each other, but there are different dialects, of course, but there's no way that they don't understand each other because it's the same language. As I said, it's quite difficult because when you learn the language, you learn a language that is not spoken. And that's pretty tricky. So let's have a look at some communication. What could your Arab business partner mean with the following statement? What do you think? You can write in the chat. What could that mean? Okay, somebody wrote something in the chat. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right. That's not possible. Remember, it's a no culture. Of course, people say no, right? If someone is a stranger on the street say, "Can you lend me $1,000?" You say, "No, I don't have that money," or your brother or best friend. But best friend is tricky. You might say, I don't have that amount of money. You know what? I'll check. I'll get back to you. They will never get back to you. And they spice it up with the word inshallah. So they're giving you a Da Vinci code. I propose, but God disposes. I tried my best, but it didn't work. Again, that is very difficult. It depends on the context, of course. The context is the software. Again, that's not possible. What about this one? Would you like X instead of Y? Any ideas? Okay, somebody's writing in the chat. Maybe, okay. What about this one? Okay. All right, no problem. This is a very classical one. Could mean, of course. No problem. Sometimes you have to understand that no, only problems or difficulties. Okay, now the other way around. Somebody asks you, a business partner, can you do that? And oftentimes some people are very direct. They will say, I don't know, no, I don't know. And this is, of course, very bad, right? How about adjusting? This is what you call communication style switching. That's a good idea. I will inform myself, right? Okay, so you're not developing a new communication style, you're just adjusting. Again, when you tell your business, we can't do that. That's very bad. How about this could be difficult, right? Or offer alternative. This could be tricky, but I can offer you that, right? Okay. All right. So when you tell Arabs, you have to. Some people tend to say you have to, you have to. Especially in German, they use the word müssen in the sense of, yeah, you should or whatever. This is very strong. How about we could, be inclusive, right? Again, I think there's no direct or indirect. Some people can be hybrid, but usually the communication style is more into diplomacy, politeness. Hierarchy is pretty high there, power distance as well. People want to maintain relationships. So it's not about what you say, but how you say it, how is something is said. The idea is this social harmony, and you need to read between the lines. That's very difficult if you come from a direct culture. And suddenly you have to read between the lines and, to read the air if you want. However, there are some tips how you recognize if the person says no. If they say, we'll think about it, okay? Saying no is considered impolite. Of course, people say no, but try to avoid it. Question gets ignored, for example. They come up with counter questions. They change the topics. Instead of discussing the problem, something else would be praised. For example, they start with saying, oh, you have a beautiful painting, oh, your car, or whatever. Maybe it's not easy, but we'll try. If they start with, we'll try, I'll do my best. Yes, but Yeah. So bottom line, if you're not willing to invest patience, time, and personal commitment, you should reconsider working or doing business in the Arab world, right? This is a task-oriented culture based on trust. So people tend to do business with people they trust, they know, and who else than cousins, siblings, family members. Whereas in other contexts, people say, no, I don't want to do business with my brother. I don't want trouble with my best friend and so on. So people try to keep those things separate. If the Arabic operating system is not iOS, it's not Android, it's IBM, the big blue back in the days, biggest computer manufacturer, sold to a Chinese company called Lenovo. So stands for Inshallah. That means so God will, God willing, or hopefully. There's a lot of fatalism there, okay? Bukra about tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. This is the fluid understanding of time. Mush mushka in the sense of never mind, no problem. Okay? They try to banalize belittling issues sometimes where we think these are serious. So what do you associate with Islam? Brian mentioned Islam. I said, this is what we connect with the Arab world. What do we connect with Islam?
Mohammed,
Muhammad, Prophet,
Mecca.
yeah. Mecca, very good. Yeah. Okay. This is a beautiful mosque in Abu Dhabi for those of you who have been there. Sheikh Zayed Mosque.
Ramadan.
Ramadan, very good. Yeah. Okay. So religion is not only a social order, it's also an economic factor, right? So you find everything in Islam. It's not simply a spiritual or religious book. You find every single, there's even something about divorce, inheritance and everything. You probably have heard the word Sharia, that means the Islamic law, which is based on two things. The Holy Book of Muslim, the Quran, and the Sunnah. That's what the Prophet said and did. Both form the Sharia, right? That's the Islamic law. So there are three levels. Level one is the Holy Book. Level two is what the Prophet said and did. And if I find nothing, there are, of course, some religious scholars who would say, yeah, that's cool, that's permitted. Let's say, stupid example, is Red Bull okay to drink? Obviously, you would check in the Quran, there's nothing about Red Bull, gives you wings. The Prophet obviously did not say anything about it, so there must be some religious scholars say, okay, anything that harms your health is not good. It's a sin or whatever, or it's allowed or permitted. Yeah. So this is how it works. 5 pillars of Islam. The first one is declaration of faith. This is what you find on the Saudi flag. It's green, there's a sword, and it says there's just one God, and the Prophet is his messenger. So imagine a person putting that on a flip-flop, walking on it. That's no go. You might say we have the Spanish flag, the American flag, fair enough. Or putting that on package of a fast food restaurant, checking that away. That's very bad, right? There was a German brewery, they put the Saudi flag on beer bottles. Number one, alcohol is forbidden. Number two, this is something holy. That's the last thing you would do, putting that on beer bottle. If you're smart enough, you would put it on alcohol-free beer or soft drinks. So anybody who converts to Islam must be able to say there's just one God and the Prophet is his messenger. Number two, prayers. Muslim pray 5 times a day does not mean that every Muslim prays 5 times a day, right? There are people who are religious. There are people who just believe, they don't practice like any other religion. Why is that important in the business world? Because you might be in the middle of a meeting and the people disappear because they have to pray. If you know that, you're relaxed. You don't know, you feel offended and disrespected. Alms, this is a kind of people give 5% of their income to the needy and necessitous and poor people. So this has nothing to do with the tax system or whatever. You do it on your own. Nobody controls that. People trust that you do that. Okay. And you have to do it. Yeah. Number 4, fasting. Muslim fast. How long do they fast per year?
During Ramadan,
Yes. How long?
more or less 1 month
Oh, that's right.
during the day only.
Right. So they fast for months. So if you have a big negotiation, it's not the best month to go there and negotiate with the people because they don't drink, they don't eat, they don't smoke, which is good for the environment, but then they smoke in the evening after breaking the fast. So people are not physically fit to do or conduct a huge negotiation. 4 months every year. But there are, of course, exceptions, little kids, sick people,
Pregnant women.
pregnant, exactly. And people who travel, they say, you know, a rule of thumb, more than 75 kilometers, you're exempted from fasting. So there are exceptions, of course. And it's nice because people gather together, you know, in the daily life, people don't have time. And this is the month where people gather together around the table and have dinner every evening. So this is a kind of spiritual cleansing, appreciating gratitude and, you know, all that stuff, and a lot of donation. And the last one is pilgrim to Mecca once in a lifetime. I know people who go 3 times per year there, but you have to be healthy because this is very strenuous. There are some rituals you have to do. Of course, you can visit that place all the year, but the pilgrim is just, I think, after the end of Ramadan, 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, that's the time. And when that's finished, and people go up this mountain where the Prophet Abraham was supposed to sacrifice his son, and when they go down, they sacrifice the sheep. That's the background. If I know that, I mean, that's okay. If you don't know, they say these people are barbarians. Why do they kill animals? Okay, so things are interconnected, right? Yeah, these are the details of that. So I'm going to skip that one because I can share my slides with you. Family is very important. So you might have a person who maybe cancel an important meeting at last minute because he has to pick up his mom from the airport, or he has to visit his son who studies in Boston or stuff like that. So family is everything. And I'm not talking about core family. We're talking about 400, 500, whatever, extended family, right? Family before business. And when it comes to business, that's, I mean, of course, it depends on the size of the company and the type of business and, you know, the generation and age and education. But usually it's very authoritarian and paternalistic at the same time. And if you work for companies, people talk about mutual commitment. I'm committed to this company. The company is committed to me as well, right? And people expect and accept also that, you know, the high ups have certain privileges, right? Person-oriented, only a relative is a good business partner. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Whereas other people might say, no, I don't want to do business with some relatives. This one is interesting. You could see the task-oriented versus relationship-oriented. This one wants to build relationship, to know what this person, that takes time. And this person say, when does he get to the point? I'm here to do business. I'm not here to close friendships, right? Of course, they both can build what you call a third space or third culture if they know about each other's background. So this one is interesting. Trust is built through sharing meal, visits, socializing, and all that stuff, right? So I know somebody who knows somebody else. I trust you. Then automatically I trust the other person because you're a trustworthy person. And in other contexts, I trust you because you're reliable, you're professional. I saw the quality of work you delivered, right? I can count on you. This is one of my favorite. You have Swatch watchers, we have the time. So having watchers does not mean you have the time, right? Again, either people believe in fatalism, why the rush, or I have enough money, why worry? Okay, and they offer a drink. Usually some Germans, they go there and they offer a drink, say, nein danke, no thanks. That's the worst thing you can do there. You are refusing hospitality. These people are Bedouins. They're hospitable. How about, can I have a glass of water? Can I have tea? And even if you have 5 coffees and you feel high, you can just take a sip and twiddle. That's the Da Vinci Code. I don't want any more. No, it's very bad. Yeah, this one is interesting. The work-life, what I personally call work-life balance. In some places, Sharia means the way, said Dominic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that means the way. That's true. So you see, in some places, there's a kind of parallel world. They just go to work and I finish, I go. Yeah, sounds like the French travail, travail, camarade après. In Germany, it's more or less the same. I go there, these are my colleagues, whatever. In the Arab world, is a kind of, everything overlaps. It's just a one world and it's family centered. This one is interesting. Negotiating and bargaining. Those of you who've been to any Arab world, you get some tips from the tourist guide, to be careful when you go to these bazaars and souks and, these guys are Bedouin, they know how to, I think most of them went to this bargaining school. So how much are 2 + 2? A young Arab boy was asked. He says it depends whether you're buying or selling. So usually I find it all the time funny when this tourist guy tell the guest and, oh, if they say 100, say 50, if they say 200. If it's 100, they would never tell you 100. They say 200. You say 100, you end up paying 150. And it's a game for them. They love it, okay? So let's have a look at some conflict management. Usually you have this confrontational culture. I think we have a problem. We need to talk about it. And there's this culture of consensus, this no problem, right? Hiding things under the carpet for the sake of harmony, right? So usually, Arabs try to avoid this confrontation with their loved ones and, with their high ups. I remember I was giving a workshop and one of the person told me, I'm negotiating with a lot of people in Qatar, and for me, they all look the same dress code wise. How do I know who is the boss? Okay, that's a good question, because in Tunisia or in Morocco or in Lebanon, people dress in a Western quote unquote way. But there, because of the heat, they wear these white robes for the flow of air. They protect their son because of the heat, etc. And I told him there are, of course, some hints. Look at the fabric of the cloth. The fabric of there's a difference between high quality and cotton or silk or whatever. Then go to the car park, see where people park their cars. The high ups usually have a car portal. It's very shady. And you have all these title, president, chancellor, CFO, whatever. Usually these are people, when they go to the meeting room, you see people maybe carrying their bags, opening door to them. You can observe that. And these are usually people who don't talk much, but they make the decisions. Let's have a look at this one. You recognize George Bush here. What is he doing here? What do you think? This can happen. How would you feel?
Well, if you don't know, you might feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But if you know, you might say, okay, hold both hands if that's necessary, as long as you sign a contract, right? So apparently George Bush is initiating that. He's been probably, um, he had some good consultant because apparently he's initiating that, right? So that's a sign of trust. That means people trust you, right? And usually some might escort you to a place. That can happen. If it happens, you know why it happens and you're relaxed. Otherwise, of course, you might feel uncomfortable, right? This is the ex-German president. What happened here?
From what I understand, male-female contact is frowned upon if there's not a relationship between the two.
Yeah, exactly. So he was probably in a dilemma because usually if the woman wears a headscarf, there's a high probability, I would say more than 90%, she doesn't shake your hand. Okay. And the other women, as you can see, did not have or did not carry a headscarf. So they probably shook his hand. And he did not want to exclude her. So he was in a dilemma, probably. But, anyways, obviously a faux pas. He extends his hand. She does this. Usually, this is a heartful gesture. You can do that if you want. You don't have to. And she would say hello. In this case, if you're not sure, you have to wait. She has to initiate it. And the other way around, if you're a woman and there are women, you shake, maybe you hugs or whatever, and there's a man and he might not. If he looks very religious, if he went to you and you're not sure, I would wait. They have to initiate it. And again, if you don't know that, you think this behavior is disrespectful, blah, 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 whatever, But if you dig deep into that, you see that this behavior is triggered by certain values, attitude, and religion. Yeah, you're relaxed.
I committed a faux pas with a traveling Pakistan business group here in Madrid, because in Spain, the tradition is to kiss both cheeks when you meet people. And I went to try to kiss him, and he said, no.
Stay where you are.
So, yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What about this one? Can you write in the chat which one? This one is an easy one. Okay. Yeah, obviously 3. Okay. And this is the beauty of it. You don't have to know about all these religion, but at least you're relaxed. So otherwise you are judgmental. Yeah. I don't know whether any of you has visited a temple before. Usually you are given a kind of skirt, right? As a male. Okay, first time you think, okay, what's going on? You go with the flow. Next time you go there, you take your own skirt. You probably don't want to wear a skirt worn by thousands of tourists before. What about this one? Hmm. Yeah, somebody's writing in the chat. 1, yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. Right, yeah, exactly. You're the boss. You should know that, right? Okay, another different thing would be, you know what? I thought about this and that, and I prepared certain ideas. I'd like to discuss them with you. That's a completely different story, isn't it? Yeah. Or the other way around. You come to countries where people expect the leader to have some ideas, say, hi guys, what do you think we should do? Already lost the battle. But you can always adapt. That's the good news about it. All right, what about this one? Somebody wrote in the chat, yeah, said 1, okay. Could be this was offended, yeah. Or rather. Yeah, somebody's writing in the chat. Yeah, exactly, number 2, yeah. He wouldn't do it, again, because of, power distance. You give me a computer, you give me something, I don't do this menial job. You want him to do it face to face, he'll figure that out, but not in front of his team, right? That's a kind of loss of face. This one is very obvious. I mean, you can cross your legs, but don't show the sole of your shoes. That's very dirty, and you wouldn't show it to your business partner. You probably saw that in the Arab Spring, especially in Egypt, people on the street holding shoes. We don't get that. Even I think George Bush was hit by a shoe during a press conference in Iraq. So that's the idea, of course. If you cross your legs, you don't have to show that. And oftentimes you have your both feet on the floor, right? If you observe some president or kings or princes. I mean, you can do that. Young people don't mind, actually. But there are some people, they don't like that. All right. Yeah, again, this is about some people are like that. They think everything is right. You enter rooms with the right foot. You greet people anti-clockwise from right to left. They think right is good, left is bad. They put on the right shoe first, okay? You are at dinner, you say, can you pass down? You use the left one, they give you that look. Some people who are very religious, young people actually don't mind. And I'm going to show you a quick video about Donald Trump back then, visit to Saudi Arabia.
Before he give you the copy and you take the side and he'll give it to you. With the right hand.
Always the right hand, right?
Always the right hand. Yeah. Always the right hand. Okay. All right. So what about this one? What do you think? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They want to build a relationship. Okay. Yep. Okay, this, I think we talked about that already. Of course, we will deal with the materials on Tuesday, inshallah. So the guy is giving you some food here for thought. Yeah. To read the air if you want, to read between the lines. He's not 100% sure. Does not mean that everyone who says that does not do it. But if he says, for example, I'll do that next Friday, I don't wait until next Friday. I call him on Monday, no emails. I call him, hi, are we in schedule? Double check, right? Because oftentimes Friday comes and nothing is done. And you can always say, you know what? I did my best. God decided differently. Can do that. Act of God. What about this one? This is easy. Yes. I remember I was coaching this lady. She was a patent attorney in a big company, and she wants to schedule a meeting with her colleague. He's based in Saudi Arabia. So she sent him an email. Hi, Mohammed. How about having our Zoom meeting next Friday? Mohammed answers back, oh, Friday is tricky. How about Sunday? So you could see both of them have no clue about each other's schedule, especially in the Gulf countries. Back in the days, you only have 3 days to do business with them: Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Their weekend, Thursday, Friday, our Saturday, Sunday. Now they shifted, so the weekend is Friday, Saturday. We have one more day, Thursday. Except Dubai, only Dubai, the Emirate. People work on Friday up until 1 p.m. The weekend is Saturday, Sunday. Other countries like Morocco, Tunisia, it's like, I think Algeria, they have Friday off. Egypt as well, but most of the countries, in the Gulf countries, they have this Friday, Saturday. There's even a colleague of mine who has written a very interesting book. Don't They Know It's Friday? Jeremy Williams, and it's a brilliant book. It's a cross-cultural, it's about cross-cultural consideration if you do business in the Gulf countries or if you happen to be an expat in one of those regions. What about this one? Mhm. Again, it's like when someone holds your hand, escorts you to your seat. This is a very touchy-feely culture, right? So people, same gender, people are very close to each other, okay? Very, very close. And if they do that, that's a sign of trust and friendship, okay? What about this one? During Ramadan, you might expect a delegation. How do you go about that? Yes. Brian, you seem to say something. Go ahead.
What you said earlier about 75 kilometers, if
Yeah,
they're more than 75 kilometers away, then they would
right.
have permission to
Okay,
to eat and
right.
drink during the day.
But to be on the safe side, you can ask them, are you fasting or not? They're not fasting. It's a normal dinner, whatever. Of course, without pork, whatever, and all that stuff. And if they say we fast, there's nothing during the day. You wait until sunset. Okay. I was involved in a project in a big bank, and they hired some interns and they organized a barbecue for them so that they meet other colleagues, which is nice, It's kind of welcome. None of these interns turned up. And they was very surprised. We organized this barbecue for them and whatever. And again, miscommunication because of high context, low context, number one. It was during Ramadan. They organized before sunset, and they had only pork. And the other guys couldn't say, I don't turn up. They come up with some excuses, and they never showed up. Okay, during an important meeting, many of your Egyptian colleagues leave the room because they want to pray. Of course, you're relaxed. They will come back. Usually 10 minutes, okay? And as I said, does not mean that everyone prays, okay? Priority is work. You cannot stop work and go to pray, okay? Whenever you have a possibility during your lunch break or whatever, you can pray. But other than that, you don't stop work. Work has priority. You can pray later. So the Arab world from a macroeconomic perspective is very important. Think about the strategic location. Think about North Africa. Think about the Middle East, all these hubs there, all these seas and oceans. Population is a very young population. If you take a country like Egypt, I think more than 50% of the population are under the age of 20. Again, the Gulf state, I mentioned that, is considered the fifth largest economy in the world. There's a lot of money to be made there. Qatar alone is one of the largest income per person in the world. I think they're top 3. There are a lot of natural resources in the Middle East, talking about gas, talking about oil, a huge population. And they like Western technology and products because they think it's of a good quality and they have a good reputation, right? So, however, the Muslim market as a whole is not a homogeneous one. And across countries, there are many differences, of course, as well as similarities. And this is reflected in the consumer behavior, as I will show in a while. Of course, they have this similar dietary requirement, the halal. You probably have heard that, halal food. And I even myself learned that it's not only the meat halal. I was at a conference and a lady was talking about halal cosmetic. Right? It's quite interesting. One of my friends on a business trip in Indonesia, and he gave his business partner a bag of gum bears as a thank you for his kids. And the other guy was really upset because it contains gelatin. If you are smart enough, you will buy gelatin-free gum bears. So most of them, I mean, Muslim, they have the same faith, values, identity, etc. Same lifestyle requirement. There's a sense of community and welfare if you want. But there are different cultural and lifestyle differences. So a country like Malaysia is not Morocco, right? There are some different. Indonesia is not Lebanon, right? There are different languages, different dialects, different location, right? Again, different degrees of education, affluence, yeah, and marketing sophistication. And there are different degrees of Islamic religiosity as well, right? So you have to bear that in mind. Some marketing faux pas, Nike, back in the days, they had a model and they put this word, which has a lot of similarity to this word in Arabic. For those of you who speak Arabic or can read Arabic, this is Allah, God. And that's the least thing you would put on sneakers. Again, you apologize for the mistake, put the shoes from distribution. This is a brewery not far away from where I live in Germany. And they put I think it was a campaign during the World Championship in Russia, 2018. At that time, there were 4 Arab countries participating in the World Championship of football or soccer. Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt. I mean, you can put the flags, no, not a problem, but not the Saudi flag, right? And they had to retrieve all the crates. That's a lot of fun. Again, this is not something, the Saudi flag, this is not something you would put on flip-flop and walk on it. Okay, this is something holy, right? That's the first declaration of faith. Same with the national flag. You cannot put the UAE national flag on shoes and walk on them. You are literally walking on the flag, which is no go. I think BMW had one campaign one time where people listened to the national anthem and suddenly they were running outside the stadium during the national anthem, running to BMW cars, and the whole thing backfired. You don't move when there's a national anthem. This is something holy, right? This one is one of my favorite. This is the German wonder drug called aspirin. Whenever you have a headache, take an aspirin. And an American company was hired to advertise aspirin. They say, okay, this is a piece of cake, okay? We'll put made in Germany, Bayer, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, no, wait a minute. Our target group are people who live in rural areas. That means many of them are illiterate. They cannot read and write. Okay, so they say, okay, no problem. No text, okay? We're going to work with pictures. I have a headache. This is the German one, the drag. I feel good. Pretty basic, right? Problem is, no one bought the aspirin. Do you know why? In Arabic language, people read and write from right to left. So you wouldn't want to take medicine to have a headache, would you? I wouldn't. All right. However, there are some successful marketing campaign. One of them is this. The biggest German bank, Deutsche Bank, organized a tea ceremony. It doesn't cost much to organize, to offer tea to your Muslim clients. It doesn't cost much to put this superstition. You probably have seen that against the bad eye. Turks call it nazar. Put it on a bank card, or put a mosque. People have the mosque, have the religion in their pocket, whatever, right? And welcome to the bank that speaks your language. We have Turkish employees. This is a mobile phone company that they are called Al-Kawn Universe, and they provide the direction for prayer, right? The call to prayer, an Islamic calendar, and the whole text of the Quran there, making a lot of money. They know how to do it. And you see there's a kind of carpet and whatever, right? I was at a conference in Crete a couple of years ago. One of my colleagues was talking about how Spain is advertising for halal tourism. Yeah, using this Islamic Spain heritage tour. Interesting. You can tap into that, make money as well. Using the Pareto principle, 80-20, quality, not quantity. And you can, using this Cordoba and Alhambra and Andalusia and all that stuff. This is a brilliant ad by a German company because women were not allowed to drive cars up until 2018. But this has nothing to do with religion, okay? The country didn't want it that one. Now women are allowed. And some German companies did a really brilliant campaign. This one is interesting. Remember Nike with the faux pas. However, they learn the lessons based on learn to fail, fail to learn. And now they're introducing pro hijab for Muslim athletes. Right. So let's have a look very quickly at the last question I have. Well, you don't have to scan that QR code. We can do that orally. What are the typical mistakes when doing business with Arabs? After what we've heard so far. You can write in the chat if you want. You can talk. Yeah, I have something in the chat. Not to establish trust. Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Yeah, trust is very, very crucial. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? So we have trust, building relationship, not accepting their hospitality. Exactly. Refusing hospitality. Yeah, not engaging in small talk, socializing, right? Okay. Understanding the relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Time. Very good. Yeah. Of course, many people say there's even a saying in France, rendezvous arabe, if someone is late. Ah, rendezvous arabe. In Britain, they call it Indian Standard. In Malaysia, Rabat time. However, when there's a call to prayer, Muslims are super punctual, as punctual as the Germans, I would say. So I think it depends on the context, right? Oftentimes, people don't care about the time, doesn't play a role, or public transport is not reliable. So oftentimes they say, okay, let's meet between 7 and 7:30 because public transport is not reliable. Not accept the exactly religion. I mean, you can be curious about religion. How about you have a colleague who fasts, say, excuse me, why do you do Ramadan? Okay, instead of saying, oh my God, you are starving yourself. What? No food, no drinks from sunset to, oh, wow. Oh, that's very, you know? How about opening up in a context? Say, excuse me, why do you do that? And they will tell you. They will tell you because they think it's genuine, it's authentic, and you're curious about it, right? Okay, so let's have a look. Somebody's assuming the Arab is synonymous to Muslim. Exactly, yeah. You say, yeah. Yeah, you're telling people from Persian you are Arab. Say, I'm not Arab, I'm Persian. Or telling the Turks, I'm not an Arab, I'm a Muslim, right? Too strong task orientation, too little focus on people. You need to invest in people. Business is about people, okay? So you have to invest in people, right? It's not the cultures with its different layers. It's not the situation. It's about people, right? Um, Too little knowledge of networks and decision-making processes. You don't know this hidden, they call it wasata, is a kind of middleman. You know somebody who knows somebody else, okay? And you need this connection, this networking. You don't respect hierarchies and status. Let's say you have a vice president visiting your country. You send a chauffeur from a rental car, whatever. That's not cool. Vice president picks up a vice president. Head of department picks up a head of department, right? And they need special treatment. Lack understanding of time. We talked about that, time and timing. Too direct communication, right? Asking close question. Will you buy my product? Of course, they don't tell you no, and yes can mean nothing. I'm listening to you or whatever. How about what do you think about my offer? What do you think about our terms and conditions? Ask open questions. If they're interested, they will insist there will be a follow-up. Lack of knowledge on conflict management. Yeah, you don't respect loss of face, harmony, shame, seniority, and all that stuff, right? And then, of course, you underestimate maybe the importance of religion, right? As maybe the guy is very religious, so you have to know something about the prayer times, fasting month. You don't invite someone and offer him, I don't know, pork or whatever, or alcohol, or you are in Dubai and the guy invites you to a restaurant and you order a bottle of wine. I mean, of course you can order anything, but you don't know whether the person is very religious or not, right? I would have to wait. All right, so bottom line, we do business with people, not cultures. So you have to invest in finding out who the people are, right? That's all I have to share with you this evening. And thank you very much for attending the session.
I'm
Any
curious if there are
questions?
any questions. Yeah, are you open to questions?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm
All
good.
right. So questions, it can be in the chat or if someone wants to open their microphone and speak.
That'll be great.
That was great, Ritha. I was just wondering, about, obviously it's a big topic, but are there many female CEOs and heads of business?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think it depends where you are in the Arab world. I would say, for example, country in Tunisia, which is considered the most liberal, to my understanding, in the Arab world, you have people in power. There used to be a prime minister, a female prime minister. I think that was the first female prime minister in the Arab world.
Well, Pakistan.
Pakistan used to have one, right? But
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Arab world.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. No worries. Yeah. Yeah. So women, there are ministers, judges, pilots, whatever, very pioneer. North Africa, probably a lot of influence from France as well. Nowadays, we see more and more opening up, even in Saudi Arabia, women running their own business, right? People in politics in UAE because of the leadership. Program of the, but I think it depends. I would say more Lebanon, I mean, it's very common, Syria as well, right? Levant, North Africa. When it comes to entrepreneurship, startup, I mean, the Gulf countries are more opening up to that as well, right? Even Saudi Arabia, I mean, nowadays any female can apply for a visa and visit the country. Back in the days, the local were not allowed to leave the country without the consent of husband, brother, and father, right? They would send a message to the customs. So there's a lot of things going on there. They've gone a long way, but yeah, there's a lot of things to be done.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I have a question about linguistics. I found it really interesting what you said about classical Arabic sounding a bit like Shakespearean English.
Yeah.
And that modern standard Arabic is the one that's sort of used on the news, right? So if
go ahead.
Yeah. And so I think my question would be about different people from different regions, if they speak very different dialects of Arabic.
Yeah.
How, like, is it really easy to understand each other, or are there some times that different dialects are so different that it's hard to communicate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if you are in the Gulf, in the North Africa, I mean, obviously Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, they understand each other. Okay. And in Algerian, many people speak French, even illiterate people. You might find a guy who speaks French and say, can you read this address to me? He can't read. So you speak French, everybody does. Speak Arabic, you are educated. In other countries speak French. Wow, this guy is cultivated, right? So there, you understand those people. The Gulf country, they understand each other. The Levant country understand each other. Okay, there's no big deal, dialect-wise. I mean, all of them understand each other. The biggest influence came from Egyptian Arabic. Okay, everybody understands it, not everybody speaks it, because people grow up with these soap operas and movies and whatever. So it was like the US, okay? People in Britain understand the American accent and not the other way around. Actually, they understand each other. There are different accents, or maybe different words, but does not mean that they cannot have a conversation, right? And this modern standard thing, sometimes you have to make a little bit of effort, but that doesn't mean this is a completely different thing. So these are usually, I would say, accent rather than there is no conversation at all.
Thank you. Questions? They could go in the chat.
Okay, well, there's something in the chat. All right, shukran, Berta. Yes, my pleasure. Glad you liked it. Okay.
Well, I think on behalf of Cietar España, Cietar Spain, we are very honored to have had you sharing this with us today. It's been really interesting, I think, for all of us. And I'm very glad that we got to do it and that we're also going to make it available on YouTube for people to watch later on. So if anyone wants to get in contact with you, how would one go about doing that?
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn if you key in my name. This is my website, www HS Worms. This is where I teach, but I'm very active on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's my website. I mean, you can Google me and you will find me.
Perfect. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
The
Shukran.
pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and yeah, have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.